Few adaptations have been as deliberately unfaithful to its source material as Stanley Kubrick's 1980 big-screen masterwork of Stephen King's 1977 novel, The Shining. Of the film, King recalled,
I felt that it was very cold, we're looking at these people, but they're like ants on an anthill.
Not only are there key differences in the big and small details of the plot,
Many of which are deliberate reversals,
but also the main characters have been fundamentally changed to suit Kubrick's vision.
yet while there was another more faithful TV miniseries,
Executive produced by King,
most consider the 1980 Kubrick film quintessential, not in spite of its differences,
but because of them. So, we figured we ought to slash this one right off the list. I'm Michael Truly,
and I'm Casey Redman.
so without further ado, and zero restraint on spoilers that are super old,
What's the difference?
let's begin with Jack. In the movie, Jack Nicholson's character is credited as Jack Torrance.
But in the book, we know his real name is John Daniel Torrance. Right from the outset, King's novel attempts to make our protagonist the everyman.
So, when King attempted to talk Stanley Kubrick out of casting Nicholson as Torrance, it was clear that Kubrick had other intentions. Jack Nicholson's grinning unbalance is clear from the outset, and you can feel an already present tension between Jack and his wife Wendy.
In the novel, Wendy is a gorgeous blonde.
But in the film, she's played by Shelley Duvall, who looks like she was put in a washing machine and then left there after too many cycles.
That's not insensitive. In the novel, it is Jack's friend Al Shockley from the Boulder office who hires him to watch over the Overlook Hotel, and Jack already has the job when he arrives for the interview with Mr. Ullman.
In the movie, Bill Watson is also present for the interview. Ullman hires Jack on the spot from some glowing recommendation.
Mr. Ullman says that the Overlook season runs from May 15th to September 30th,
But in the movie, it runs from May 15th to October 30th, meaning the first day alone in the Overlook Hotel is Halloween.
In the novel, their son Danny is a very bright 5-year-old child whose vocabulary is way beyond his years, and he watches Sesame Street and Electric Company.
In the film, Danny, played by Dan Lloyd, has a 7-year-old's vocabulary and watches Roadrunner cartoons and The Summer of 42.
In the novel, Danny sees everything in his first vision. The Overlook Hotel, the snowstorm, red rum, the bathroom, the bedroom, an overturned chair, an old woman in a tub, a hand, limp, a slow trickle of blood, and his father swinging a mallet in the hallway. But he does not see the Grady sisters.
In the movie, all Danny sees is blood pouring from the elevators and the Grady twins. After the first vision knocks him unconscious, an unnamed female pediatrician visits him.
But in King's version, Danny visits a male pediatrician named Bill Edmonds at his office. While there, it is Jack who tells the doctor about the time he hurt his son, who is described with his arm in a cast.
But in the film, Jack is absent. Danny's arm is fine, and it is Wendy who tells the doctor about the incident, which makes a lot more sense if you're gonna beat a child. You don't go bragging about it.
In the novel, Danny's imaginary friend Tony can be seen by Danny and gradually gets closer as the novel progresses.
In the movie, Tony is unseen and speaks from Danny's mouth as he mimes that creepy little finger. We should point out that at the end of the TV miniseries, we see a grown-up Danny graduating from high school.
This little boy has grown up to become the Tony that Danny was having visions of. Why? We don't know why, we're just telling!
Bringing us to the titular shining ability.
In the novel, Halloran tells Danny the Bible calls it having visions, and there's scientists that call it precognition. I've read up on it, son. I studied it. They all mean seeing the future.
In the film, he gives a simpler explanation, and it's never blatant whether anyone besides Danny or Halloran has the ability to shine. Let's talk about Jack's writing for a second.
In King's version, we know that Jack works on 2 separate projects. The first is a play that he abandons after finding the Overlook scrapbook in the basement that inspires his second work, A History of the Overlook Hotel.
In the film, we see the scrapbook laid out on the table, but there's no mention of where he found it or whether it actually is the scrapbook. If we consider what we actually see of Jack's writing on screen, the only words he ever writes are "all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy."
This famous repeated line never appears in the novel.
In both the book and movie, Jack is a recovering alcoholic, though the details are different.
In the novel, Jack tells Bill Watson that he hasn't had a drink in the last 14 months.
But in the movie, he tells Lloyd he's had 5 miserable months on the wagon.
Absent from the film are the symptoms of Jack's alcoholism, such as wiping his lips and chewing Excedrin. In the novel, Jack stood in the darkness for a moment, thinking, wanting a drink.
Suddenly the hotel seemed full of 1,000 stealthy sounds, creakings and groans. But of all the ways Kubrick characterizes the hotel in the film, he prefers silence to exaggerate its creepiness.
In King's version, there is a roque court and a topiary full of hedge animals out front.
In the movie, the hedges are on the opposite side in the rear and trimmed as a mostly sinister psychological maze.
King's version brings inanimate objects to life. Danny sees the hedge dog, the fire hose, and the elevator move on their own.
In Kubrick's version, we get a bloody elevator. So, what about the Overlook Hotel's desires? Does the hotel want anything in the film?
No. But in King's novel, the hotel wants to absorb Danny's powers.
There are lots of discrepancies with the special room in The Shining.
In the novel, Danny sees room 217 during the tour with Mr. Ullman, and Halloran tells him to stay away from it, which of course he can't.
In the movie, Danny finds the room after his encounter with Jack's yellow rubber ball. Despite conspiracy theories, the hotel they filmed in asked Kubrick to change the room number to 237, since the hotel numbers don't reach as high and future guests wouldn't be afraid to stay in the room.
At the midway point of the novel, Danny enters room 217, watches his double in the mirror, and then sees the old woman. Jack enters and sees that the tub was dry as a bone.
The midpoint of the film, Jack finds his way into room 237 and has an encounter with the sexy decomposing lady.
New holes for new things.
Red rum is not introduced until about 2/3 into the movie.
But in the novel, Danny knows that red rum is in the hotel before they even arrive, as warned by Tony. The first time Danny sees the word red rum, it's in a vision in which the letters are engulfed in green flames.
As opposed to the film in which Danny, possessed by Tony, writes red rum in blood red lipstick on the door.
The novel has the word revealed to Danny in a bathroom mirror, but in the film, it's Wendy who sees it in the vanity mirror.
In the film, Wendy locks Jack in the storeroom, but in the book, both Danny and Wendy do it.
When Grady sets Jack free in the novel, he says, "You let them lock you in? Hardly sets you off as being a top managerial timber, does it?" There's this drive for Jack to become the manager throughout King's story.
Kubrick never mentions it, and we never see Grady let Jack out.
Whereas King shows Grady physically release Jack.
Some might say that in Kubrick's version, Jack has the ability to shine and thus lets himself out.
Whoa there, let's not get carried away now.
In the film, Jack comes a-limping with an axe that seems to have appeared in his hands. This turns out to be Jack's preferred method of door opening.
King describes Jack's weapon of choice as a roque mallet, first opening their room door with a key, and then he uses the mallet on the bathroom door.
Kubrick doesn't waste any time, preferring Jack smash as many doors with that axe as is possible. We paid for that axe, we're gonna use it.
Absent from the novel, here's Johnny.
Nicholson improvised the famous line on the day of shooting.
"Take your medicine," was Jack's big line in the novel.
Take your medicine!
In the novel, "Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin" and "I'll huff and I'll puff" are said by the dogman.
In the film, Wendy encounters the dogman in a rather precarious situation we're certain she'd rather not have seen.
But we're kind of into it. In King's book, when Dick Halloran returns to Danny's aid, he witnesses spirits leaving the hotel.
Which don't exist in the movie.
In King's version, he is severely injured, but still manages to save the day.
In Kubrick's version, when Jackie Boy gets a swingin', not even old Shannon Dick can survive.
In the novel, for a brief moment during Jack's final rage, he snaps out of it and pleads with Danny, "Doc, run away, quick, and remember how much I love you."
Yeah, that's not in the movie. Danny escapes in Kubrick's movie by deceptively retracing his footsteps.
But in King's novel, he says,
"The boiler! It hasn't been dumped since this morning. It's going up. It's going to explode!"
The Overlook Hotel explodes.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Fun fact, although Kubrick left the Overlook intact at the end of the movie, there was a huge fire that burned down the set. You can even see Kubrick laughing about the irony in this picture.
Have you read this Family Circus?
Remember we mentioned the fate of the Grady family? Well, in Kubrick's film, Grady stacked them neatly in the Overlook Hotel.
But in King's novel, a ranger from the national park found them, frozen. Solid.
So it's pretty hilarious then that Jack is the one who was found frozen in the hedge maze at the end of the movie. It's not like funny ha. Okay, it's more like a wry musing, I suppose.
And finally, in the novel, there's a mention of an important black and white picture that upon seeing it, Jack realizes that, quote, "He would be damned. He would be in hell with the sinners."
So maybe that explains the film's final image.
But what does it all mean?
Well, we sure as hell have no idea. So why don't you tell us your theories in the comments below and let us know if we missed anything, because there's definitely enough differences in The Shining to cover at least 2 episodes.
If this episode gets tons and tons of likes, then we'll do part 2. And make sure to subscribe to Cinefix for more What's the Difference to learn awesome stuff about movies every day.
Go check it out! Go check it out.